A creeper wearing a snappy business suit frantically dials a pixelated rotary phone, his blocky fingers clicking desperately as he yells into the receiver, "We've got a budget explosion crisis." Code: Boomtown. Nearby, villagers dive behind their cubied houses, eyes wide with alarm, clutching their pixelated pitchforks or hastily stacked hay bales. The air crackles with tension, and not just because a creeper's involved. Welcome to the world where Minecraft mobs have invaded the corporate realm, and everything is about to blow up, literally. In this strange, square-shaped universe, the most volatile creatures in the overworld are now at the helm of human-style bureaucracy, turning everyday office life into a chaotic powder keg. Meet Mr. C. Reaper, the newly appointed CEO of Creeper Corp., the world's leading conglomerate in spontaneous combustion. Sporting a tie a few pixels too wide and a suspiciously crumpled suit, probably an effect of past explosions, he's got one goal: to prove that creepers can run the tightest, most explosive government ever witnessed. Just don't ask him to explain the budget. The numbers literally tend to blow up in his face. The scene opens on Creeper Corps headquarters, a towering obelisk of green pixel blocks wrapped in security cameras shaped like tiny Endermen heads. Smoke puffs lazily from the vents as a faint hissing noise hums throughout the building like the nervous breathing of a beast about to explode. Inside, the boardroom buzzes with jittery creeper executives, their fuses twitching with nervous energy. The CEO's office door flies open, spraying a few scattered blocks like confetti, and Mr. C. Reaper bursts in, phone glued to ear, sweat. Or what passes for sweat in a creeper's world? Dripping from his pixelated brow listen, he snaps, voice crackling like a redstone torch overheating. The TNT allocation for the upcoming fiscal year has to be doubled. If we don't, the minecart subsidies will deflate faster than a slime in a cactus patch. His advisors scribble frantic notes on glowing enchanted books, though most seem distracted by the giant lever marked "Do Not Pull" looming ominously in the corner. A warning no creeper can resist dot in the hall outside. Villagers cluster, whispering anxiously. It's worse than last year's Enderman tax debacle, one mutters, clutching a sign reading "No blowing up our farms." Another shakes their blocky head. If creepers run the budgets, we'll never trade wheat again without explosive consequences. Meanwhile, a single zombie in a tie wanders by, looking confused, possibly misplaced at the annual shareholders meeting cut to the server room, where the cyberpixies, those adorable little pixelated computers shaped like silver fish, buzz with overload warnings. The entire financial system is clearly a ticking time bomb, wires sparking alongside bundles of glowing redstone circuits. At the center, a frazzled skeleton accountant adjusts his visor, muttering, "If another explosive line item shows up, I am respawning on a desert island." Nearby, a ghast floats lazily, sighing mournfully as data packets vaporize in midair with tiny boom sound effects back upstairs. Mr. C. Reaper slams his green fist on the crystal-clear obsidian desk. We need more innovation, or at least more explosions masked as innovation. We're out of patience, and patience is the one thing that never explodes. The tension in the room is palpable. A creeper's fuse isn't just a threat, it's an eternal metaphor. Just then, his personal assistant, a business-savvy spider named Miss Weber, skitters in, dangling a contract covered in squiggly red lines. "Sir, the villagers have filed a formal complaint about last quarter's spontaneous combustion tax," she announces in a silky voice. Apparently, someone detonated a livestock auction by mistake accident. Mr. C. Reaper snickers, the corners of his mouth twitching dangerously close to an explosive grin. There's no such thing as an accident in this government, only strategic fireworks. As if to prove the point, the office lights flicker, and a random spark shoots from a nearby filing cabinet. Everyone stares in silent acceptance before casually reorganizing their inventory of fireproof suits, mandatory attire for all government creepers outside, The world has adjusted to this new brand of leadership. Billboards feature pixelated creeper slogans. Make the world boom again. In explosion we trust. And more TNT, more progress. City streets are dotted with square potholes suspiciously shaped like tiny craters. On the corner, a villager street vendor sells safer explosive sandwiches. A dubious claim. While nearby, a pixelated pig nervously calculates his chances of surviving tax day. Meanwhile, in the chaotic capital's parliament building, a grand cubipillared hall fashioned from mossy cobblestone, the legislative session unfolds in an absurd buzz of fragmented explosions. Creeper politicians debate fiercely, each speech punctuated by small detonations from animated sound effects etched into the walls. Their arguments: the budget needs more boom to stimulate growth, versus we need to diffuse the situation before it all blows up in our faces. Ironically, both statements seem equally valid. One standout legislator, Senator Tick Tick Boom, is infamous for his fiery speeches and unpredictably timed self-detonations. He's the living embodiment of explosive rhetoric. Today, he's pushing a bill titled the Blast Budget Act, promising to triple the expenditure on selective detonation technology, a fancy term for turning chaos into government-sanctioned mayhem. His catchphrase, "When in doubt, blow it out," which rallies his supporters and terrifies his detractors in equal measure. Overseeing the legislative chaos is the Speaker of the House, a wizened enderman named Elder Longleg, whose long limbs fling oversized gavels with a disturbing grace. His calm, pixelated eyes watch the proceedings as if every boom is an unavoidable glitch in the Matrix. He occasionally intervenes with a simple warning: please keep your explosions within parliamentary guidelines. Explode responsibly. This phrase instantly becomes a viral meme throughout the Minecraft community, spawning fan art of creepers wearing tiny safety helmets and neon boom zone signs. Meanwhile, down a secret elevator shaft, hidden beneath the government building, lies the unexplored Bureau of Blast Management, a shadowy agency responsible for expense audits related to explosions, TNT handling, and spontaneous combustion affairs. Here, a cadre of creeper bureaucrats pore over stacks of charred documents and smoke-damaged spreadsheets, trying to make sense of financial records with more holes than Swiss cheese. One junior analyst whimsically suggests, shouldn't we just outsource all budget crises to the Nether? At least the lava handles most of the cleanup back above ground. Pressure mounts as villagers organize peaceful protests, waving signs pixelated with slogans like "No More Boom" and "Save Our Crops from Creeper Control." Crossing their square arms, farmers in straw hats block the roads in neat pixel-perfect lines, chanting in unison. But each protest is met with a half-hearted creeper response, a blush of harmless fizzles, more theatrical than destructive, probably a PR stunt to show they're listening without causing actual damage. Amid this swirling landscape of exploding budgets and crumbling alliances, Mr. C. Reaper stands on the balcony of Creeper Corps headquarters, gazing over the city's skyline smeared with orange-tinted sunsets and the occasional smoke plume. For a moment, the corporate warrior mob watches his pixelated empire breathe, the blocky buildings shimmering like hundreds of tiny, wired redstone torches. His eyes narrow. Somewhere in the chaos, an idea ticks inside his volatile brain. Because in a government run by creepers, the more things blow up, the more they believe they're succeeding. Financial crises aren't disasters, they are performance indicators. Explosions aren't failures, they are explosive milestones. In this odd, blocky world, the fuse might be lit, but the show is just beginning. And yet, somewhere beneath all the forced cheer and controlled detonations, there's a whispered question among the villagers and even some rebels inside the creeper ranks. How long before one explosion is too many? Before the chaos becomes an unfixable glitch? Because running the world's most chaotic government isn't just a gamble. It's a ticking time bomb waiting to redefine what going nuclear really means. As the last seconds of the day fade into a pixelated night, lit by the flickering glow of redstone lamps and the occasional harmless spark. The camera pans away from the burning edges of the Creeper Corp skyscraper and onto the horizon. There, a subtle, unsettling rumble begins, a promise that the next great crisis won't just blow budgets, but could blow the entire blocky, world-apart dot indeed. In a universe where creepers run the show, everyone lives with bated breath, waiting to see who's next to pull the lever, ignite the fuse, or dial the pixelated phone that sets off the next great explosion of political, financial, and fiery chaos. Stay tuned, because the real meltdown is yet to come. The sun rose pixel-perfect over a city carved from cubes and chaos, casting sharp shadows on the towering towers of glass and obsidian. The headquarters of Creeper Corp, the world's largest, and arguably most combustible, conglomerate. Here, behind walls that shimmered with emerald hues, the official government building was a bombshell of bureaucracy, ruled not by smooth politicians, but by the neon-green faces of Creeper executives, the ultimate blockheads of corporate governance. At the center of this blocky behemoth was Mayor Cabomington, a particularly fussy creeper with a penchant for public relations and unexpected detonations. His fuse was short, but his ideas were shorter, which created a perfect storm of pandemonium for the creepered world order. Inside the chaotic halls of Creeper Corp, a labyrinthine maze of cubed offices, redstone switches clicking endlessly, and dangerously unstable TNT elevators. Mayor Cabomington paced nervously. His square head bobbed beneath his pixelated helmet as he prepared for the morning address to the multi-layered government board. A chorus of sullen creepers who communicated mostly in explosive sighs and jittery hisses. Today wasn't going to be a simple day. Rumors had sparked like falling lava about an impending corporate creeper crisis, one that threatened to detonate the very foundation of their district. Spoiler alert, things were about to go kablooey. This crisis began where all great block-based problems do, in a cubicle. Inside Creeper Corps Central Office Tower, a young, sharp-minded creeper named Ivy Fuse was tinkering with the corporate stability module, a bewildering contraption wired to monitor public unrest and stockpile tension before it escalated into doom. She was the company's unwilling genius. Think of her as the tech-savvy voice of reason in an explosion-prone government. Ivy, with her mint green pixel glow blinking nervously amid stacks of reports and fizzing redstone gadgets, had just discovered an alarming anomaly. The module was registering unprecedented levels of societal stress, right before the inevitable explosion of chaos. The screen blinked, showing a maze of graphs with wild spikes shaped suspiciously like creeper faces. Ivy's cuba-shaped fingers hovered over a keypad as she muttered under her breath, "If another bobby-pin explodes in the subway, we're all TNT." She pushed a button marked emergency panic alarm, which triggered a flurry of flashing lights and a chorus of electronic hiss-buzzing. The entire Creeper Corp building responded, sending ripples through the pixelated air. At that moment, Mayor Cabomington's office door sprang open with a comic boom. Well, more of a boxy puff of smoke. Because, of course, doors here didn't merely open, they detonated safely for dramatic effect. Mayor Cabomington appeared, his eyes wide and green-glowing. "What's the kaboom, Ivy?" he asked, drumming his blocky fingers on the desk so hard that a small pixelated tremor snuck up the walls. Ivy's reply was precise. "Sir, our corporate stability module has detected mass societal pressure at critical levels. The streets outside are jittering with unrest, literally. The factories have gone silent, and stock prices are dropping faster than an anvil in a scorpion pit." Cabomington blinked once, then twice, as if loading a fuse. "Mass societal pressure," he echoed, a hint of panic cracking his usually controlled sizzle. Are the citizens themselves about to blow? That was the problem. Creepers were not made for public discourse. They were built for sudden, explosive action and very limited small talk. Now, they were expected to manage a society teetering on the edge of fracturing, without, actually exploding it. For a government of walking TNT sticks, this was like asking a dragon to light candles without singeing the chandelier outside. The city writhed beneath a spectacularly blocky sunset, orange and red squares flickering like firelight on a stone courtyard. Citizens, humanoid beings with the telltale green glow of creeper ancestry, marched in oddly jittery unison. Their whispers seemed like faint crackles of dynamite, the tension as thick as a layer of obsidian. Billboards flashed slogans like "Stability is an explosion waiting to happen," and "Keep calm and don't detonate." It had morphed into a full-in frenzy of chaos management, all dictated by TikTok timers attached to every mundane transaction, monitored closely by odd robotic watchdogs shaped like TNT blocks, with eyes that glowed ominously if things seemed out of control back inside Creeper Corp. Ivy led Mayor Kabumington through the control corridor, a massive hall lined with redstone monitors displaying citywide metrics, from popcorn consumption, rates to lava flow traffic jams. They stopped before the great display, a real-time 3D map of the city's mood, which looked like a pixelated heart beating frantically in neon green. Suddenly, the heart pulsed violently, and an alarm blared. Kabumington jumped back, nearly tripping over a stack of precarious TNT bundles used for office construction. The explosive index just tipped over 900. Ivy gasped. If it hits 1,000, we're looking at a full-scale pandemonium burst. Factories could blow, power grids will fry, and worst of all, no more orderly explosions. Total anarchy. Kabumington blinked, narrowing his blocky eyes into slits. "We must contain the situation," he declared with the gravity of a creeper about to defuse a particularly itchy fuse. "Send out the damage control creepers." This sent a ripple through the underground tunnels beneath the skyscrapers, where the damage control teams resided. These were specialized, grenade-wielding creepers trained in both demolition and quick fixes, essentially the fire brigade for explosive disasters. In an absurdly coordinated fashion, they mobilized, crawling from vents and pixelated alleyways into the street, their helmets blinking dread and their speech bubbles filled with coded warnings like "Kaboom protocol activated." Watching them in action resembled a blocky ballet of destruction prevention, each leap and fissure carefully choreographed to prevent major explosions while paradoxically relying on small ones. But the problem wasn't just an unruly city, it was also a corporate scandal brewing beneath the shiny surface of Creeper Corp. Just yesterday, the corporate legislature had passed a bill titled Blast Radius Expansion, allowing Creeper Corp to extend their explosive influence into resource-rich biomes. Think lush forests soon to be replaced by mining pits and TNT factories. The sudden surge in unregulated TNT shipments was already destabilizing the ecosystem like a lit fuse through a gunpowder stash. Environmental blocks, trees, animals, even innocent villagers, were caught in a tug-of-war between profits and preservation. As pixelated bird chirps morphed into distant explosions, environmental lobbyists, made of cautious, pixelated rabbits and block rabbits, staged digital sit-ins on lava roadblocks, flashing signs demanding, "No more exploding forests." Ivy shook her head. The blast radius expansion is backfiring spectacularly. Smog nearly capped the sky this morning, and the creeper workforce morale is literally plummeting. They're spitting sparks just talking about work. Productivity's dropped to 0, which is dangerous. Dead silence makes creepers jittery. Kabumington, sipping cautiously on a cup of steaming pixel tea that hissed like a contained potion, suddenly had a moment of clarity, or what passed for clarity in this volatile voxel world. Then we double down on chaos control. We need a distraction, something to unite the populace, restore order, and keep the explosions manageable. Cue the brainstorm. What better than the world's first annual explosive talent show? A gaudy spectacle promising fireworks, both literal and metaphorical, to take edge off the social stew and remind citizens why creeper rule was, at its core, an art form in controlled demolition. This event promised glittering displays of TNT tamers, fuselancers, and synchronized detonations, where failure wasn't an option, but usually occurred anyway. As preparations erupted overnight, skyscrapers transformed into grand stages, and giant pixelated speakers blasted karaoke renditions of TNT is the way to be. Cabumington took a moment to reflect. He stared out at the jittery skyline, patches of shimmering explosions dotting the horizon like digital fireworks captured mid-burst. This corporate crisis was no mere glitch in the system. It was a revelation, a reminder that when you let creepers run a government, every decision, every policy was a ticking time bomb. And yet, there was a strange beauty in this madness. A method beneath the explosion. The very fabric of the creeper world, unpredictable, volatile, endlessly dangerous, was held together by a thread of fragile control and absurd resilience. As the city braced itself for the inevitable blow-up, Cabumington smiled, the pixelated edges of his mouth twitching in a mixture of hope and dread. "Let's light the fuse," he murmured behind the scenes. Ivy shuffled data streams like digital puzzle pieces, piecing together the tangled web of impending disasters with a grim determination. Somewhere in the depths of this blocky bureaucracy, buried under layers of redstone and TNT, a single question burned brighter than any explosion. Could a government built on kaboom survive the blast of its own chaos? The answer. That, dear viewer, is a fuse still burning, and it's about to snap. But before the final explosion of this saga, the Creeper Nation must take its first true step into a world where governance is less about diplomacy and more about dodging dynamite, setting the stage for anarchy. With a smile and chaos with a checklist, hold your breath and your blocks. Because the corporate creeper crisis has only just begun. A sudden explosion of green pixelated chaos, the signature sound of a creeper about to detonate, echoed through the glass-door boardroom of TNT Enterprises, the most explosive conglomerate in creeper-controlled government history. Here, amidst floating holograms of budget graphs and strategic kaboom indexes, sat Chancellor C. Boomington, the charismatic, slightly jittery creeper who claimed the corporate world was just another minefield to navigate. His blocky eyes flickered nervously, while his 4 stumpy legs tapped an uneven rhythm on the polished obsidian floor. A nervous habit that, truth be told, made his staff more on edge than his unpredictable mood swings. The chamber itself resembled a nightmarish fusion of a Minecraft redstone lab and a Wall Street trading floor, with blinking levers, pressure plates wired to ticker displays, and TNT crates overshadowing stacks of BAMs, blocky asset monetary metrics. The air smelled faintly of sulfur and burnt pixel dust, which was, needless to say, a bit unsettling during financial meetings. But business was booming, or exploding, depending on your viewpoint, as TNT Enterprises had monopolized everything from creeper-proof armor to demolition services, and now, controversially, urban development projects. Boomington, the shareholders are agitated, rumbled the voice of Long Fuse Larson, a skeletal accountant with a whipping, pixelated beard and an unsettling grin that looked permanent, like he'd just signed a contract in blood, or maybe just lava ink. Our latest project, the Creeper Mall of Mayhem, lost 10 billion shrapnel credits this quarter. Customers don't want to shop where the parking lot blows up mysteriously. And the explosion-themed food court, what's our exit strategy there? Literally, Boomington's eyes widened so suddenly, you could almost hear the faint sizzle. The fusion of commerce and controlled chaos is our brand. He retorted, his mouth opening in a surprisingly expressive, blocky fashion. We're redefining urban experiences. People crave thrills, the unpredictability of the explosion. It's what makes a shopping trip memorable. Besides, isn't surprise the spice of life? Behind him, a redstone panel blinked ominously, as if agreeing catastrophically. Meanwhile, just outside the boardroom window, the shiny metropolis of Creepertropolis sprawled beneath a toxic green sky, dotted by undetonated TNT crates doubling as streetlights. Hovering delivery drones, shaped suspiciously like tiny creeper heads, zigzagged between skyscrapers, occasionally bursting into harmless, or not-so-harmless, pops. Down below, pixel citizens in slightly singed armor shuffled nervously past the shattered remains of Blockmart, a retail giant that had accidentally dissolved under suspiciously timed mining detonations. It was clear. The corporate creeper crisis was not just financial. It was existential. Boomington rose abruptly, legs clacking across the floor like a ticking time bomb, and addressed the assembled directors, each one an exaggerated caricature of creeper stereotypes. Long Fuse with his perpetual grin, Nitro Nancy always nervously twiddling a fuse in multiple hands, and Detonator Dave, whose explosive temper wasn't just a metaphor. Gentle creepers, we need innovation, not implosion. It's time we went beyond profit and chaos. He paused dramatically, a single pixel of sweat slipping down his face. We need stability. This proclamation was met with a collective gasp, as stability was as foreign to creeper culture as peace was to a TNT stash. The idea that the most unpredictable creatures had a taste for calm corporate governance was almost cartoonishly absurd. But within that absurdity lay a curious truth. Boomington was desperate. Sales were tanking, public trust was plummeting like a block after a fatal drop, and even the Ministry of Mayhem was threatening to nationalize the market. The thought of government intervention scared even the most bomb-happy executives. Suddenly, with a sly smile, Boomington unveiled his masterstroke, the Detonation Dividend Initiative, a plan to stabilize stocks by distributing explosions as dividends, literal blasts that would delight the public without endangering their homes. Miniaturized TNT capsules, harmlessly powerful enough to brighten the skyline and reset the market. The idea? To turn chaos into spectacle, bombing boredom away one carefully calibrated kaboom at a time. Nitro Nancy raised a cautious hand. And what if it backfires? Last time we tried controlled explosions, the entire financial district looked like exploded pigskin from a piglin football match. Boomington chuckled dryly. Precisely why this time. Well, use the new anti-blast buffer technology, lightening the damage footprint by 99.9%. It's foolproof except for the fools. He winked, which in creeper terms looked like a barely perceptible pixel flickerback at ground level. In the dim-lit alleyways, where the real country's dissatisfaction simmered, a group called the Green Peacekeepers plotted quietly. They were a ragtag band of blocky rebels who believed that creeper chaos in governance had gone too far. Their leader, an unusually clever creeper known as Sizzle, who wore a chest plate patched with cobblestone scars, whispered conspiratorially, "If the leaders want to sell explosions as dividends, let's sell them a reality check. Time to diffuse this madness from the inside." Meanwhile, in the steaming reactors of the Creeper Stock Exchange, where shares were as volatile as trapped lava, Kirby Capps, an overzealous creeper trader known for wild bets and even wilder explosions, slammed his claw on a lever, triggering a sudden, unsanctioned detonation of pixel coal. The resulting shockwave sent flying bits of redstone wire raining over panicked investors like blocky confetti. Boomington's plan is a ticking time bomb, Kirby muttered sourly, wiping clinker dust off his green visage. One misfire and this government could literally blow up outside. The media was having a field day. The pixelated news anchor Blocky McNews was spinning the story with glorious misquotes and CG explosions that were admittedly more impressive than reality. Creeper capitalism creeps closer to chaos, he announced with bombastic flair, dropping in stock prices as dramatically as a TNT cube drop. Meanwhile, opinion polls showed a staggering 73% of citizens wanted less kaboom and more kaboom tolerance policies. Back in TNT Enterprises, Boomington paced, realizing the irony was a ticking fuse itself. The explosive government was running on fumes, and ironically, they needed to act fast before the entire system detonated into political rubble. The irony was not lost on him that a creature synonymous with destruction was now desperate to contain the blast. He summoned an emergency meeting with his top engineers, urging them to refine the anti-blast buffer tech further. We must make explosions not just safe, but beautiful, like fireworks that cheer the citizen Blockies instead of scaring them. One engineer, a surprisingly jittery skeleton named Snap, proposed embedding rhythm sensors so each blast matched the block beats of Creepertropolis' underground techno scene. Imagine the spectacle, Snap grinned, explosions in beat with the pulse of the city. Boomington nodded slowly, images flashing before his mind's eye. The nighttime skyline alive with choreographed bursts of harmless TNT, turning anarchic detonations into a dazzling display. If we can't stop the explosions, he said, we might as well turn them into art. However, as dawn broke over the pixelated horizon, cracks appeared in the plan. Simultaneously, reports flooded in of a rogue faction hijacking the distribution pods, those drone-like creeper capsule bombs meant to scatter the detonation dividends. Instead of spectacle, neighborhoods were receiving actual destructive blasts disguised as gifts of the new government. Amid the rubble of a recently blasted library, Sizzle and his green peacekeepers watched several distribution pods whiz by, their fuses dangerously close to ignition. Sizzle frowned. The chaos is evolving. Too far from order, too far from peace. Maybe Boomington's plan was doomed from the start. Back above, Boomington received the news like a fractured pulse stone, his carefully crafted narrative unraveling into a blocky nightmare. An inside job? Boomington hissed, eyes narrowing like black holes. His trusted long fuse Larson leaned in, whispering, "We may have creepers in our creepers." It was politics, creeper style. Tangled fuses and waiting explosions. But in true creeper fashion, despite crises, chaos, and unexpected betrayals, the government still functioned. Or functioned explosively enough to keep the populace too distracted to revolt outright. The boardroom lights flickered again, not from electrical failures, but from a tiny, unexpected blast in the corner. Boomington's nervous tick finally catching up with him. The Chancellor exhaled a smoky puff, staring out at the glowing, greenish metropolis where economic models and explosions danced dangerously close to disaster. Perhaps all governments are just high-stakes mines, he mused aloud, and the only difference is how long before they blow. As the chaos of corporate creeper governance spiraled onward, the world waited. Watching, holding their collective breath like a TNT primed and shaking, wondering who would be the next to ignite the fuse, or who would finally master the explosion of control. And somewhere in the distance, in the heart of Creepertropolis, the detonation drones hummed along their routes, some programmed for displays of peace, others for displays of pure, unrestrained kaboom. It was a world built on explosions, ruled by those who loved to blow things up, but mostly desperately trying not to blow themselves apart. The stage was set for a final explosion, but this time, a fuse was lit not just on TNT, but on change. And that, in creeper politics, was the most chaotic surprise of all. The sun squarely hit the pixelated skyline of Creeper City as the most explosive chapter in blocky bureaucracy began. Welcome to the corporate creeper crisis. Imagine neon green creepers in snappy ties, tapping blocky briefcases, pacing awkwardly in cubic boardrooms filled with TNT stock charts, and startled Endermen investors blinking in disbelief. At the center of it all was Chancellor Boomington, a boss creeper whose fuse was famously short, yet whose ambition exploded far beyond his volatile body. His eyes, two glowing emerald cubes, flickered with equal parts genius and impending detonation. Quite literally. The government had officially transformed from chaos incarnate to corporate chaos incarnate, and the world was watching, nervously clutching pickaxes and crafted potions. Nobody expected the meticulous explosion of capitalism would be this, combustible dot in a towering obsidian skyscraper, dubbed the Creeperate headquarters. The walls trembled with the hum of countless creeper drones, negotiating hostile takeovers and tender explosions disguised as goodwill gestures. Boomington, perched atop his throne of dynamite crates, held the meeting of the century. Operation Detonate the Market was underway. His plan? To blow up competitors, quite literally, but with a twist that only a creeper with delusions of corporate grandeur could devise. Rather than triggering actual explosions and risking regulatory blockades, Boomington proposed a method of strategic fuse delays, literally delaying their competitors' tick timers with underhanded tricks, sending entire companies into purgatory waiting for an inevitable financial kaboom. The meeting crackled with electric tension. His second-in-command, Vice Chamber Creeper Splodberg, sipped suspiciously on pixelated green tea that fizzed like a potion of awkwardness as he questioned, "Sir, wouldn't constant delayed detonations lead to, well, bad PR? Like, wouldn't everyone start calling us slow-burn terrorists?" Boomington's grin was all fuse and teeth. "Splodberg, if we blow things up too fast, we lose control. The whole idea is to create suspense. The stock market loves suspense. People pay good diamonds for suspense." His eyes twitched involuntarily like a nearing fuse. "We're not just blowing things up anymore. We're blowing people's minds." The room shattered into nervous chuckles that sounded suspiciously like distant explosions zoom to a not-so-typical Creeper shareholder's office. A modest 3-block home where Linda the Creeper, head of the modest Creeper-crafted pickaxe startup, nervously glanced at her glowing stock ticker. It fluctuated wildly, a chaos symphony conducted by Boomington's latest hostile corporate ticking. Linda wasn't a corporate giant, but she was about to get caught in the blast radius. Her phone, a raw redstone block, buzzed with an incoming call from Boomington's PR team. The voice syruped through the pixelated speaker. "Congratulations, your stock just went kablooey." "Don't worry, it's a feature, not a bug." Linda's mouth, an innocent little frown, quivered underneath her green, pixelated skin. "Feature or bug," she muttered, "pretty much the same thing when you're about to go boom." Meanwhile, the Creeper News Network, TNTV, was scrambling to cover the unfolding crisis. Anchored by the ever-dramatic Steve Blockman, an ex-minner turned media sensation, TNTV blared breaking headlines. "Creeper corporate crisis. Will the economy implode like a creeper in a cave?" Steve's blocky eyebrows raised in mock horror, his pixelated mouth twitching exaggeratedly. "It's the biggest boom in bureaucracy since the Great Creeper Explosion of 27, he declared. Off-camera, behind him, a misplaced creeper prop detonated prematurely, sending green shrapnel everywhere, much to Steve's dismay. "I meant metaphorically, people." His crackling chuckle eased what was arguably the worst reporting day since TNTV's servers blew up mid-broadcast back at the corporate lair. Things rapidly spiraled out of control. Boomington, having declared himself CEO for life until exploded, scheduled a high-stakes shareholders summit in the Grand Hall, complete with cubic chandeliers dripping redstone dust and TNT confetti cannons. The clincher, an unprecedented bid for global domination through a new blockchain coin titled FuseCoin, designed to fuse the Creeper economy and finance one massive, uninterrupted explosion of profit. Naturally, the summit floor buzzed with greed and paranoid glances after all. Sharing explosive wealth sometimes meant unexpected detonations in the shared pockets. As the meeting commenced, Boomington pressed a button, a suspiciously large red block labeled Global Boom. The room held its breath. The countdown began, marked by a tense ticking soundtrack that felt oddly like a heartbeat synthesized by redstone repeaters. Shareholders stiffened, their tiny feet twitching in pixelated anxiety. Suddenly, the projector right behind Boomington flickered, and instead of presenting financial charts, displayed a glitchy animation of a creeper joyously jumping into a pool of lava labeled Market Crash. Splodberg whispered harshly, "Sir, I believe the fuse is metaphorical." Boomington paused, then, in a rare moment of self-awareness, muttered, "Maybe we blew it." Too soon, meanwhile, An unlikely hero emerged from the chaos. Linda the Creeper, armed not with explosives, but with a fiery speech about sustainable growth and sanity. Somehow, this peaceful creeper refused to be part of Boomington's grand boom plan. At a crucial moment, she hacked into the summit's broadcast, projecting her manifesto across every creeper screen and digital billboard. Let's diffuse the economy, not detonate it. Chaos is fun, but stability is the real treasure. Her pixelated eyes sparkled with the kind of naive hope only a creeper with a dream could muster. The room burst into claps and confused fuses. The absurdity was, perhaps, exactly what this crisis needed, as the fuse coin network began to falter. Because despite all the planning, nobody expected creeper data blocks to resist experimental explosives. Parts of Creeper City started glitching. Buildings flickered between solid obsidian and exploding TNT blocks mid-frame. NPC creepers, confused, wandered around with minifuses sparking prematurely, muttering, "Did I just tick?" Or was that the market? It was chaos masquerading as capitalism, with occasional pops that echoed like ironic punctuation marks in the background, with time snapping faster than a creeper fuse. Boomington realized he might have bit off more coal than he could blow up. In a climactic confrontation broadcast live, Linda confronted Boomington under the flickering neon glow of the Creeperate Tower. "You claim to run the world's most chaotic government," she said, "but sometimes chaos needs a failsafe." Boomington's fuse sparked nervously. "Fails? What?" He stammered, his explosive confidence wobbly for once. "Failsafe," she repeated. "A plan that doesn't end in a kaboom every 10 minutes. The two stood in tense silence, the potential for either a handshake or an explosion hanging delicately in the blocky air. Then, unexpectedly, Boomington's ticker hit 0, but no explosion. Instead, a gentle puff of harmless smoke hissed out. The crowd blinked, a collective pause as if the universe had just booted from a freeze frame to something new. "What now?" Boomington murmured, a tiny smile creeping across his blocky face. Linda answered with a grin. "Now we try something crazy. Cooperation." For once, it was not a fuse, but a handshake that sparked the idea that maybe, just maybe, the most explosive government wasn't the one that blew everything up indiscriminately, but the one that learned when to hold the fuse tight and when to let the peace reign. As Creeper City's cubed sun dipped behind the pixel hills, the neon corporate chaos didn't just fade. It reloaded with a dodgier, more awkward but strangely hopeful rhythm. The trails of smoke from the corporate explosions lingered like the ghosts of what had been and what might be. Because in a world run by creepers, chaos wasn't going anywhere. But maybe the chaos could be a little more productive, or at least less likely to accidentally take out the entire treasury vault. And with that, the stage was set for a whole new kind of explosive governance. One part madness, one part awkward teamwork, and all parts unpredictably Minecraft. So here we stand, at the edge of the fuse, watching the creepers of the world's most chaotic government rethink what it means to be explosive leaders. The buildings may wobble, the stocks may spike and pop, but as long as there's a spark of hope, or an inconveniently late fuse, the narrative is far from over. Because in the world of creepers, the next big boom is never just about destruction, it's about who's clever enough to light the fuse, and who's smart enough to run before the blast hits.